Hello, welcome to Productions MJC. My name is Mark. I found this video and I was researching something else, and I'll explain that in a minute. This is going to be off of the norm for most folks that watch what I do, but on this I just found this interesting. The timestamp up here at 38, I'm in at 38. Watch what happens. Watch what the dog does. Watch this. And zing, she's off. 38, the dog's gone. Boom. 43, the ground shakes. I need to do some more research before I go on vacation. Now that I've got everybody's attention with that, let's get back to the other video. I know that look on his face. I've been in this situation, not as bad as this, but I have been in a situation. I feel like that dog coming up right now. You know, I remember just, what do you do? Panic. It was just nuts. Recently I went on a vacation. We went up to, well, before we went to Yellowstone, we actually went and saw the eclipse and such like that. And apparently there have been just a cluster of earthquakes up in Yellowstone. I didn't know that. I mean, I'm not a doomsdayer. What I started researching was a little bit ago there was an earthquake up in, I believe, Soda Springs, Idaho. And about 3 weeks before that, to me, it smelled like 100 people were sitting out in the open air getting permanents to their hair, getting permanent waves put in their hair. You know what I mean? You know, you've walked into a salon, or you have folks that do the home perms, and it's got a very distinct smell to it. It's not sulfur, it's not ammonia, it's its own unique thing. As we were on vacation, I mentioned to my kids the fact that I smelled that smell in my life out in the open area like that, and within a certain time frame there was an earthquake. I thought it was just common knowledge. Now, I spoke with the University of Utah Seismic Center. They you know, nobody, and I've actually researched it, I've Googled it. Nothing. I mean, I've experienced 5 earthquakes in my life, starting when I was about 12, 14. Another when I was 20. You know, about one a decade, where I'm out in the open, driving through a, you know, come to think of it, most of the time it's in like a canyonish, hilly area. I smell this, what I call perm solution smell, like I'm following a tanker truck full of the stuff and they got a leak and it's dripping on the ground. And then within 2 weeks, 2 months, some time frame, there's an earthquake, usually within like 100 miles of me. And so I thought it was just common knowledge, and that was one of the precursors of an earthquake. You know, not really used to predict when, where, and how, and magnitude and all that. Just you know, I thought it was just common because I've experienced it about once a decade in my life. So that's what this video is about. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just, you know, coincidental. I don't know. But I thought someone would have been researching this before now. I had no idea that all of this other stuff was happening. I'll have to rethink it, because I've been up to Yellowstone before, and of course you smell different things, but that permanent solution, that permanent wave solution smell, not the sodium hydroxide, that's lye. I've used that before, it's not that. I have come to associate it not only with getting a home perm or something like that, but when I was 12 and in my 20s, I had never experienced, well, when I was 12, 14, I had never experienced that smell at all. That smell hit me, and I remember it distinctly. It was only later on in life that I knew what it was. Coming back to this, I've been in that situation. I've been involved in stuff like this, not to this extent, but I remember the feelings. And recently there was an earthquake, and my lamp, well, it's one of those ceiling fans, it swung pretty violently there for a bit and then stopped. And it took me a while to because even though it was 5.2 somewhere else, it was not bad where I was at. It was quite a ways away, up in Soda Springs, Idaho. And it's just, I didn't get the queasy stomach I did like the first time it happened. And you can see the cars just rumbling, jumbling back there. Interesting how at 38, what happened? Did the dog notice screams of people? Did the dog notice something unusual? Let me get back. 37, 38, there, and whoa, and then she's off. And did they hear the groaning of the earth? Did they hear the reaction? 37, 38. It's just interesting things, they say about animals. That one is a 5-second warning, roughly. Pretty interesting stuff. I've been through Yellowstone many times, and you smell the sulfur, you smell all the other smells that are familiar to you, the firecracker sulfur burning smell, and others. But as I went around through there, I mentioned to my children, I wish my daughter had have got it on Snapchat, because the University of Utah calls my theory anecdotal. I would, and that's part of the reason I'm doing this video right now, is so the next time it occurs, it won't be anecdotal. Oh, look, I got a couple of, oh yeah. That's another love of mine, is flat earth. All my flat earth folks know. To kind of delve into the philosophy, the perspective of the flat earth mind, it appears to be all about getting attention, good or bad, from the fact that they believe in a flat earth. But this is going to be a video about what I have observed over, half a century of my life. I've been involved or felt or watched the effects of 5 pretty good earthquakes. The latest one, I didn't realize it at the time, because the only thing that really moved in my house this time was the fan blades almost hit the ceiling as it wiggled back and forth. When I was younger, I chewed out my brother for shaking the fish tank and such, because there was water splashing all over the place. At work, then another one that hit a decade later, 12 years later, up in Idaho, with unfortunate effects from that. 2 children were actually killed when a storefront fell down on them, I believe it was. Chalice, Idaho. Every time in front of one of these, the thing that I've been researching that I can't find, and I've talked to the University of Utah Seismic Center, I've talked to them about it, and they just say, well, what you're saying is anecdotal. Okay, maybe so, but that's how we learn evidence. That's how we gather evidence, is anecdotally, usually. What I'm trying to do is not come up with a magic bullet for earthquake detection, but similar how to when you go outside in the morning. Sky's normal, okay, fine. But you wake up and the clouds are getting red, bright reddish, and right before sunup, the old sailor saying, red sky in morning, sailor take warning, red sky at night, sailor delight. Basically, is what I've experienced a precursor which can't accurately predict when or where, but at least it's a warning flag. You see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be some miracle worker at predicting when and where. We were up in Yellowstone. This happened, and also it's happened other times. I mean, my son and I watched the eclipse from Thornton. I experienced it then. I experienced it 2 weeks later in Yellowstone between Driggs and Jackson Hole. 2.5 weeks later, all these clusters of earthquakes are happening. I've experienced it, like I said, 5 times throughout my life. I had no idea what this was, I think, until I was 12 years old, and I went into my cousin's beauty salon, and then it hit me. Later on, I had a wife that her whole family was into perms, and so I knew the smell. And for me to be driving down the freeway or through, from Driggs over to Jackson, and come across this smell in the air, not strong like when you hit a skunk or something like that, but our senses are tied to memories, and certain smells wake up certain memories, and that happened to me. And I mentioned to my kids on the trip, wow, that smells like somebody's getting a permanent, but we're out in the middle of the woods going up a canyon. It almost smells like a truck carrying that chemical has, sprung a leak or something, and it's up ahead of us. I mean, when you're following a cattle truck. You get what I'm saying? Holy cow, do you know when you're following a cattle truck? And you get kind of that whisper on the air, and if you're going 80 and they're going 70 after a while, oh, as you begin to gain ground and catch up, you're following a cattle truck. Going up through trees, and to come across that aroma, like 100 people must be at a campground out there getting perms all at the same time. And this is a salt. Maybe the magma heats up the salt fumes are expressed, as things are moving around. And maybe this aroma could happen at times when the ground doesn't move, but there is activity. I don't know. I try to hand the researchers the information. I've looked at it. I've looked for stuff. I can't find it. Can't find any info. Nobody knows what I'm talking about, but see, I researched earthquake smell, and that's where I found the dog one and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, nobody's really said anything about this, but maybe this will wake up something in your mind. Especially maybe over in Japan. I mean, if it smells like there's a permanent, somebody's getting their hair permed, get a permanent wave. If they record smells before an earthquake, who knows? Who knows? Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This has been Mark with Productions MJC.